Hey guys, this is Brother Scott with the Potter's House, and I want to make a little video and maybe give some clarity on something that you may be seeing taking place and you may not understand exactly what that is. And there are people all over the nation. I'm in Tennessee, so even all over Tennessee, all over the country, all over the globe, are preparing and getting ready for what we would call the Feast of Trumpets. And this is one of those appointed times that we find in Leviticus 23 that Yahweh instructed his people Israel to keep and to observe. But not only that, there are also people all over uh, the globe, and here again, all over our nation, uh, looking for the appearing of Yeshua. They're praying. They can look at the news and at the things taking place in our world and see that his appearing is getting very, very close. And but yet at the same time, you have those who say, "Well, we don't know when he's coming back. We can't know when he is returning." And I would say that there are things given to us in the scriptures that indicate at when he will return. And as we begin this, I want to just say that I'm not setting a date, but I want to bring your attention just to one aspect, one thought about his returning, how we can know at what time he is going to return. And when I say time, I mean what uh, season. And we have to look at this from a biblical viewpoint. And if you go to Leviticus 23 and these appointed times, you're going to see that you have Passover and you have unleavened bread, Passover, first fruits, Pentecost, and then you have a period of time where there's nothing. And then we come upon the first fall feast, which is Feast of Trumpets. Now, unleavened bread, Passover, first fruits, Yeshua, when he come the first time, he fulfilled those things. Those things were fulfilled. So we're waiting now for the fulfillment of these fall feasts, which is Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Tabernacles. And I want us to look, as I said, just for a little bit at some indications that we find in the scripture when Yeshua will return or make his second return. And one of them I want to look at is that Paul, the Apostle Paul, gives us some insight as to the time of his returning. And let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and begin at verse 1. It says, "But of the time and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you." So here these people, these Thessalonians, understood these times and seasons. He's referring to those appointed times that we find in Leviticus 23. He says in verse 2, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night." So this is what I want us to look at. And he also in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul gives us uh, insight as to the return when he's talking about in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. This is also a reference to the Feast of Trumpets. But I want us to look here at the reference he makes as the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night. This thief in the night is another reference to Feast of Trumpets as when he will be returning. So let's go now to Matthew 24, and I want to follow this thief in the night in in the reference to the return of Yeshua on the Feast of Trumpets. And as we look at this, if we look at verse uh, 36. Listen to what Yeshua says regarding his returning, and understand that when he says these things, the disciples are going to pick up on some things as to when the season or time of his returning is going to be. But verse 36, he says, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." So here when we look at this, "but of the day and the hour knoweth no man," here's something they would have picked up on as a reference to Feast of Trumpets. And this goes in, we're going to see this follows into this thief in the night ideas, because no one knows exactly when Feast of Trumpets is going to occur. Now you can get a calendar that gives you the times of the feast, and it's going to tell you when it comes to Feast of Trumpets, it's going to give you an idea. It's going to have a date there. It's going to say Feast of Trumpets. But they're not 100% sure that that's going to be the date, because the Feast of Trumpets is the only feast that Yahweh says you are to keep. It's the only feast that no one knows when it starts. It starts on the new moon. So they are watching, looking for the appearance of that new moon. You're going to see here even in Matthew 24 that Yeshua admonishes the disciples to watch. Okay, but his first uh, hint that he gives is, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man." We don't know when it's going to occur. If we go down to verse 42, it says, "Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your master doth come." Here again, here's another hint that he's given, that his return will be on Feast of Trumpets. "Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your master comes." Okay, now the next verse, let's catch this. "But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up." So Paul has referenced the returning, the day of Yahweh, the day of the Lord, the return of Yeshua as a thief. Now Yeshua is laying this same thing, the thief, another indication of Feast of Trumpets. So he's done this twice here, given that hint. Let's go on to verse 44. It says, "Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh." Here again, an indication of when he is going to return. In an hour, watch, be ready. Do not let this catch you off guard. Don't let it catch you unaware. He's giving them a hint, letting them know, Feast of Trumpets, Feast of Trumpets. So let's go and look at, so Paul compares it to a thief. Yeshua compares it as a thief. Let's go to 2 Peter chapter 3. And verse 10. Let's see what Peter says. "But the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night." So here again, Peter is saying this. Peter is letting these people know. He's giving them the hint, the same hint that Yeshua gave for his returning, as coming as a thief. The same indication that Paul gave, as this is going to come on you as a thief, and now Peter gives it as an indication as coming as a thief. And the readers and the hearers of these words, of these letters, and of these words spoken by Yeshua would understand that there is only one time, there's only one season that is known as the thief, or a thief, and that is Feast of Trumpets, because you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. But in closing, I want to go back to Matthew 24. And let's pick up another thing just real quickly that Yeshua said. Matthew 24 and verse 4. And Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed, pay attention, be on alert, be on guard, that no man deceive you. Verse 25, he says, and people will come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. And then in verse 11, he talks about many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many. One of the things that he is also letting the disciples know, making them aware, is don't be deceived. This word deceived means to roam from safety, or to roam from truth. He says many are going to come and deceive many. So they're going to cause many to stray from the truth, to stray from safety. What am I trying to say here? For those that say that we cannot know when he's coming, and here again, we don't know the day or the year of his return, but we can know the season. We can know the conditions. So we know it is on Feast of Trumpets, and Matthew 24 and Mark and Luke, their Gospels let us know what the conditions are going to be. So for those that say we can't know, we can know. And when they tell you that these feast days are not important, they're not for us, they were only for Jews, they're doing much damage to believers. First of all, they weren't given to just Jews, but they were given to Israel. But when they say they're not for us, we need to pay attention to those things. They are deceiving you. They are causing you, or possibly have caused you, to stray and to roam from truth, because you can know what season his return will be in, because Yeshua told us what season that his return would be. Paul told us what season his return would be. Peter told us what season his return would be. Mark and Luke told us in their accounts what season that Yeshua said his return would be in. So to say that we can't know is deceiving those. And it's those that are being deceived that are going to be surprised. But those who are made aware and know to be looking in this season for the return, to be preparing in this season for Yeshua's return, to be letting others know that you need to wake up. In this season, they're going to sound the shofar, they're going to blow the trumpets, and they're going to be an awakening blast. And this is how we know, even in Corinthians, when Paul talks about that, he talks about that blast, that sounding of the shofar, and the dead shall raise first. The Feast of Trumpets is also known as Resurrection Day, the resurrection of the dead. Feast of Trumpets is also known as Coronation Day. This is when Israel would coronate their kings. So all over the scriptures, informs us and lets us know that this is the season of his return. Don't be deceived. Do not allow false prophets to deceive you and tell you that these things are not for you. You don't need to pay attention to these things. Anyone that tells you that is a false prophet. And we'll talk about that in another video. But you need to be aware and be watching and be rehearsing and be found faithful for the return of Yeshua. Shalom.